Hey, everybody. How are y'all doing? Happy Thursday. Happy Thursday, everybody. We're here. We are here. We're waiting for Judge Boyce, uh, his YouTube channel, to start streaming the court hearing for the Chin's Daybell, Chad Daybell. And we'll see what all we have to go forward with, you know. We'll see what John Pryor will try to throw out there into the court abyss, right? Hey, KJ. Hey, Angela. Hey, Lamisa. Chad the Chudster, aka Mr. Potato Head. Good morning, Tracy. That's sweet. Hey, it's just Robbie. It's so good to see your face. Hello, Mr. Eric Jasper. How's it going over there in Ohio? I was about to say Idaho, but shame on me. Hey, Rombo. Hey, Spread Love Not Hate. Lena, how are we? Carrie Ann, how are you doing, pretty girl? And Madam August Butterfly. So good to see you. Hey, Soulseye. Beach Bomb. Denise Gray. Good morning. Fancy Nancy. Fancy Nancy, we are going to try and get your idea put into a reality. And we're going to try and do those damn it dolls. I need some damn it dolls. Just for everyday normal stuff. Much less the Chinster's trial, right? Hey, Tracy Gilbo, how are you? What version? Leave me. Oh my God, I'm sorry. Lamisa said, "Oh, I'm wondering what version of Pryor we're getting today. Will he be rude? Will he play dumb? Will he play? Will he be on the warpath? And I think now that his money is less, he's gonna be testy as hell. I don't know if it was ever more. His money. Mm-mm-mm. Hey, bye, Felicia. Love your name. Checking in from Georgia. Hey, Lena. And Hughes. Hey, Hughes. It's good to see you. Right? So we're just chilling and seeing. We kind of freaked out yesterday because we thought that there was that they had court papers or whatever from the portal that said that they had a hearing yesterday, and I was like, "What?" I'm so confused because of how Lori's court hearing just came out of nowhere for me. It did. I don't know if it was on the books for everybody else, but for me, I was like, "Wait, what?" I didn't know anything about it. And and then all of a sudden, so we had her hearing, and then I was late for that. Thank God for Donna. Hey, Heidi. And then anyways, so there was a hearing yesterday for Chad. And I was on the phone with my mom whenever that happened. I was like, "Wait," I was so confused because I was like, "Well, did they have his hearing yesterday for Chad?" And I just don't know anything about it. And anyways, not to hold anybody's feet to the fire, but it was for jury questions or something. I'm not really sure. But I don't think Chad was there for whatever it's worth. Sorry, I'm still putting makeup on. I don't know how they do makeup and tell true crime stories. How I don't even know how they talk and put makeup on. I guess I'm not multitasked. What is Boyce doing this morning? It's in Idaho, isn't? Oh, isn't in Arizona? That was yesterday. Yesterday was Arizona for Lori. And y'all, I mean, did you see? I finally did get to go see Lori, in the hearing that she had yesterday in Arizona. And I was like, "Oh my god, why does this hooker always look for the damn camera?" Always, always. She makes and the camera don't even have eyes except for all of ours, and she makes eye contact with it. She locates it. And I mean, I don't know why she's smiling. It's so disturbing, I do believe. She's just so awkward. It's like, "No, honey, we're not like you're not famous. You're infamous. You're you're on the dark side, girl. You're on the dark side." Lisa said, "Lori is legit insane." Narcissism, says Robbie, right? Woo! It is ugly. This narcissism is a very ugly, ugly thing that we are all witnessing, I do believe. Yeah. I'm right there with y'all. She is gross. She is disgusting. It reminds me of Kitty wanting to have sexy time. Donna says, she's a look at me, right? Oh my gosh, so envious. Beach Bum says, I'll wave as he comes. Oh, okay. I think she's talking about somebody else. I don't think Lori's going down 75. But um let's see. Donna keeps refreshing to see when they're gonna go stream it live. Fingers 007. Bonjour les amis. Les amis. I don't know. I took French and where I'm from, they speak Cajun French. But I don't think it's not formal ever. It's never formal good French. So usually I learn how to use swear words in foreign languages. So that's my the extent of my foreign language expertise. Robinette says typical sociopath. Yeah. Oh man. And then Lisa says, and she's not even that infamous. She is a small fry compared to other criminals. Right on. Right on. And then Angela says narcs overcompensate for the real insecurity inside, in my opinion. I totally 100,000% agree with that. Um, I think that Lori's always been trained or raised or however you want to put that to smile, smile, Lori. You know, she was kind of uh put on by her parents. It seems. And, because I do know that wherever my uncle and Lori moved, everywhere that Charles and Lori moved, so would Janice and Barry and whatever. I mean, it would just be, anyways, it was just different. I don't really know what they provided, if they were moving around to help Lori babysit and stuff like that, but it just doesn't even seem like that was the case. It would be nice to hear their side of the story, wouldn't it? I think. Again, I slept under the same roof with these people. It was really that is like, whoa. That is rather scary, looking hindsight. Um, and nobody knew what it looked like down the road 10, 15, not even, years. Yeah, about 10, 15 years. I met Tylee when she was just 3. Um, cute little baby, cute little toddler. Was joined at her, she was stuck on her mama like most babies are, most little, especially little girls. Well, little boys too. But anyways, it was just typical. Uh, La Plus Belle. C'est La Plus Belle. Let's see. It shows her, Marie says, Lamisa, you're right. And it shows her histrionic personality disorder along with her need for attention. It's like if I can't get any attention, any kind of positive attention, I am going to try and I'm going to, well, she's going to demand that she gets any attention, which we see that that's a lot of negative attention for doing negative and things that are just not right. Human right, just basic human right, like, you can't violate those. You should not violate anyone else's human rights, in my opinion. You don't have that right. Mm, Detective Ball and Hermesy are your faves. Yeah. Happy Go Ducky says, I wonder if she's staring at the camera so because she is hoping Chad will see the coverage. Hey, I didn't even think about that. Ew. Either way, it's so gross. It's not for good reasons. And it's like she's there. It's serious, but I mean, really, that's part of this whole distancing herself, depersonalizing, dehumanizing everyone that loved and trusted her as their wife, as their mother, as their sister. Um, and so that's distancing, it's just distancing from that person, distancing herself from that person. And so I don't know if, once that switch is flipped, it seems like Lori is fine and dandy. No looking back. So Charles will never be a person to her again. Tylee will never be a person to her again. And JJ will never be a person to her again. Tammy never was a person to her, I don't think. But anyway, that did find that script or whatever from Chasing a Murderer. And I did some more looking up into what she was even presenting. And it was about it was interesting. So I guess I'll go and kind of read that until Judge Boyce comes on, right? We have nothing better to do. So I cannot see the screen. So just in case it comes on and I don't hear it, let me know, Donna. Okay. And this is Chasing a Murderer YouTube channel, Miss Deb. She does an amazing job. She's very thorough in her research. She's really just combed through all these things over the last few years and really given it the time and just the respect, I think, of the time and the effort to find out what went wrong, where did it go wrong, why did it go wrong, how did it go wrong, all those things, or just for us to be able to see kind of where things changed. And so I'm just kind of reading her script for a little bit. And so it says, what makes an uber religious and loving mom turn into something everyone, including her family, wouldn't expect? We've been working on the 2015 timeline, and we know that there's a blood moon approaching. There's a few people within the LDS community branching out in their own direction, claiming that the blood moon is bringing signs of the end of the day, signs of the times, right? And apparently Julie Roach, had Daybell, Spencer, which is Tom, and a few more. And right now we are in, like I mentioned earlier, 2015. So early 2015, which I believe is one of the main years that kind of sparked this fire. I have to agree with her on that. And she says, Chad Daybell is speaking out more often about his near-death experiences at events. His publishing company, he admits, has given him this path. So, okay. Which is for him to meet these wonderful authors such as Suzanne Freeman, Julie Rowe, Hector Sosa. Well, I'm going to add Christopher Parrott in there because he co-wrote a book with Roger Young and Christopher Parrott even. And she says, who have also shared their near-death experiences, because it's from those that they gain these beautiful gifts to see future events and gain visionary gifts. He says in one of his writings that he has been given the privilege to see the same future events as they have, and admits that he's taken those same futuristic events and incorporated them into his novels. While he claims it was August of 1985 when he was 17 years old in his senior year, seems to be when all of this begins. It was mostly, I would have to say, 1988. He was overwhelmed and very taken by sports. He was very intrigued by sports. And that includes baseball, basketball, and we learned that he played JV baseball. He was excited to be what he titled himself as the star basketball player, right? Of course he did. Whether he was or not, it's like he's just grandiose all the way. And I mean, if he was a damn sexton, a cemetery gravedigger, he was going to be the MVP of it, right? So this is his trial. He can be the MVP of that. That's what I got to say. Anyways, he can be the star defendant. Okay. Okay. So he titled himself as the star basketball player on their church team, and it's that team that actually went to camp at the Flaming Gorge or Flaming George, I don't know which one it is, reservoir in northern Utah, where he jumped off the cliff, which we've learned in the future series. And I'm saying that he had a near-death experience after hitting the water, and that cliff was about 60 feet above the surface of the water. For me, it seemed that he got quite traumatized by the height of this cliff. Mm-hmm. Actually, I have this podcast, but I'm not going to share it right now. I'm going to wait on them. They're late, by the way. And Chad Daybell tells us what he basically considers to be a near-death experience. So it doesn't mean that you're clinically dead, okay? It means that it was something that kind of jolted him, that, in their words, pushed him out of his body or pushed him out of his spirit, whatever the hell they try to do. A lot of these cases where they instill fear and they keep anxiety around and everything, and what it does is it causes dissociative identity disorder, in my opinion. So it seems like that might be what's happening, in my opinion, at least, is from what I know now, or how I'm kind of looking at that, which causes a person to compartmentalize, basically. And then, like in David Hamblin, he's a Mormon therapist, or he was a Mormon therapist, who administers peyote in his ceremonies, his healing ceremonies. And the whole point, he has a whole quote unquote parts theory. Okay. And it's to cause all these different alters in his alleged victims, to cause them to compartmentalize, to create alters, like his daughter. I'm talking about Hamblin's daughter. His daughter, Rachel, has a alter named Tabitha. Tabitha will do whatever is needed or wanted, if you know what I mean. It's disgusting. I don't understand, but it just seems to be going along in this group.
Krisha, there's some sort of technical delay, they say. So it's because of the audio or something, and people in the courtroom are communicating that they're working on the cameras and stuff. So that's what the delay is about.
Okay. Well, thank you. I mean, at least we know that now. They could have, kept that to themselves and nobody would have known anything. Uh, yeah, I'm just reading those comments now. Uh, Chad thinks a near-death experience is anything that gets a reaction from other women. Yeah. Reaction out of something, huh? Lori looks like she's morphing into a Klingon with her forehead wrinkles. Thank you for that, Bewitched. We love your witty comments. Yeah. Oh, and Rombo's eating flip-flops again. Oh, hell. Oh, man. Deadline for mental health defense has passed. It was February 1st. So we know that Chad is not going to be able to do that, in his defense. Y'all know I'm always looking for other things too. And I go and I scale over or comb through um, the Lafferty brothers, Ervil Baron, and that whole sad situation. Um, uh, Elizabeth Smart, Brian David Mitchell, and just basically other Latter-day Saints who have kind of been accused or been known for doing the same kind of like-minded behavior, right? And it's very interesting. I look forward to digging into that way deeper. It's kind of weird. Yeah. Yeah. Did y'all this is what Carrie Ann says. Did y'all all notice whenever Lori walked in, she said hi to the Arizona prosecutor, right? Or no, as the prosecutor walked by her. Yeah, I noticed that too. Dr. G is a YouTube channel and he does body like kind of reading the body language. And he has a good little video, I think, on Lori and her courtroom antics, right? Seeking Justice says Crusher when she looked at the camera and smiled like it's a win, but she's never ever getting out. I know. That's what y'all, I mean, I have my own commentary. With all these things, with all these people, and I mean it's different from day to day, from time to time. Every if I were to watch, let's say Melanie Gibb, the interview with Nate Eaton right now, and then I would watch it again, and then let's say I'd watch it again today. Let's say I watched it 3 times today. I would have a different commentary for every single one of them. Every time there's something I either chirp back at it or sometimes it's just how I get through it. Some days I'm feeling spunky and some days I'm just like whatever. Some days she don't bother me. Some days I can't stand her. And same for him. I hope they don't have this problem in the trial. Yeah. I know. That's what I just said, Donna. What if this happens at the trial? I'm so glad that it's gonna be available though, because I don't even know how much it cost last time. I remember putting in for it, when Jason arrived in Boise, but I never I never looked to see if I got an email back from the people to see how much the transcripts were, or not transcripts, but yeah, the audio. I am not graceful putting makeup on and talking. Can't do it. So if it's quiet, it's because I'm concentrating. Oh yeah, Mohawk mom. She says, remember, voice wants control of the cameras. Oh yeah. Did y'all think the judge was fair in Ruby, Frankie, and Jody Hildebrandt's um, sentencing or whatever the hell that was? I gotta say that's weird the way they do that there. Well, how can we know if the church has infiltrated the board and parole or whomever does the sentencing in Utah? I was just like, "Well, how do we know who those people are?" Rumbo. Oh my god, Chad got stuck in his portal coming back and now causes a storm here. Damn him. You out of flip-flops too. Mhm. Mhm. Alright. We're just waiting. Alright, let me open up another window. Because we're just gonna kinda keep chit-chatting until they make their debut. Um, History. Whoa. Let's see. There we go. Whoa, okay. We need, like, some elevator music, huh? Or actually, it's okay for the silence. Okay. Let me Alright. So, there was this guy, whose daughter had a near-death experience. He's passed away, but so I guess you could oh, no, let me be nice. And I'm not being ugly when I say stuff like this, but let's just say that he's had a death experience and not a near-death one, right? Oh, sorry. I know, I say things at the wrong time, but it's just kinda how my humor works, my personality. And, his name was Doug Mendenhall, okay? And so he came out with some books, and they were called Conquering Spiritual Evil, and it seemed to have a big influence on people like Chad Daybell and Julie Rowe. He talks about the spiritual weapons and armor and how many demons are in somebody and things like that. And it says, I'm reading from latterdaycommentary.com under Doug Mendenhall, the subject. And it says, we mourn the passing of Doug Mendenhall on December 18, 2020. Doug was so kind to me over the years as I read and wrote about his books, attended his seminars and visited him as a friend to encourage him in his work. I am personally grateful to Doug for his masterful work on conquering spiritual evil, which is the name of the book, right? Which has so richly blessed my life and given me courage. Apparently, I'm the first to review this book. I don't know why that is. Perhaps it is because the book is not widely distributed. As far as I can tell, it is only available from, guess what? Confetti Books, right? In Spanish Fork, Utah. It was published in 2011. There's already a second edition, which I'm reviewing. The author is Doug Mendenhall, who published several previous books that you may recognize. Doug is the father of Denise Mendenhall, who suffered a diabetic stroke and coma at age 10 that destroyed the left side of her brain. When she recovered, she no longer had a veil, meaning that she could see the spirit world and the spirit beings around us. Denise is not the only one who has such spirit vision, but of all accounts I have read, her gifts seem to be the most pronounced. The Mendenhall family has published, it's a title, My Peace I Give Unto You in 2001. Uh-oh. With Robert Lake, with Robert Lake. Oh, God. I just learned that name yesterday. Oh, my God. Okay. Possibilities, Lesson from the Spirit in 2002, and In His Arms, Experience with the Other Side, 2006, authored by Denise. Doug said his latest book took several years to write, but is based on his spiritual experiences with his daughter and others from previous dozen years. And it says a few warnings. If you're going to read these books, you're going to need to deal with a lower quality binding. That may be disappointing. Okay. Warning. Okay, we don't really care about that. Doug warns us in advance for anyone who has self-published, you know how difficult, if not impossible, it is to find every typo. No matter how many times you review it or how many people put eyes on it before it goes to press. Most self-edited books have typos. The only other warning I want to offer you, if you choose to read this book, is that you need to be aware of the intensity of some of the experiences. Oh, yeah. It says, if you're not used to reading about such stuff, you may want to prepare yourself by reading some other, shall we say, lighter introductory material about the spirit world. I can recommend a list of books. And then it says, an unusual claim. We're just waiting on Daybell to, they're having technical difficulties with the sound or whatever from the court. I wonder how long they'll sit there and actually fidget with that, and just go on without us, because it's close to lunchtime. Or, well, it is here, but that doesn't mean it's there. It's mid-morning in Idaho. Let's see. So Donna just keeps refreshing. And anyway, so thank y'all for being here. I'm just kind of going over some influences, that influenced Chad Daybell. Okay, so it says an unusual claim. Doug tells it like it is. I can't see that he would have any reason to make these things up. He has put his reputation on the line when he says in the preface that the Lord requested him to write this book. If you're a member of the LDS faith, you know what kind of claim that is. Not many people make that claim, and those who do are usually looked upon as crackpots or, quote, out there, unquote. I have made the claim that my writings have been inspired over the years, but have never felt I could say that the Lord asked me to write something. Perhaps I don't know him that well. Well, that's not, wow. The only other person I know who has made the claim that the Lord asked him to write a book is Denver Snuffer, okay, whose work I have read and reviewed previously on Latter-day Saint Commentary.com. Right. Why would the Lord ask Doug to write this book? And if he did, why hasn't he received more attention in the online LDS world? I have searched online many times since I first heard about this book and subsequently read it. I can find less than half a dozen references to the work in the blogs of other LDS writers. There seems to be no marketing efforts being made for this volume. Okay, so it goes on to first impressions. I was fascinated with the content from the moment I received the book. I confess I jumped right to the chapter on complete possession. Okay.
That, and in the interest of moving this hearing along, the court will note that it won't be live streamed, I believe, because of the technical issue. However, obviously the hearing's open to the public, and there is a FTR recording, which is audio as well as a transcript from the court reporter. So with that in mind, I'll note that the state's here represented by Mr. Wood and Ms. Blake, and the defense is represented, Mr. Pryor here, as well as the defendant, Mr. Daybell. This is the time set for the pretrial conference, and the court will note that I did have a hearing yesterday with counsel that was a closed sealed hearing related to the jury questionnaire. And we discussed a few of the issues for today, but in general terms, the court will just note that this matter is scheduled for a jury trial that is currently set for April 1st through May 31st of this year in Ada County. The court's scheduling order has listed out other deadlines coming up, and I've discussed that with counsel. In general terms, then, noting the dates of the trial, there were a few matters the court wanted to raise, and then I'll get to counsel specifically with any questions or concerns you have about trial. Let me go back to this questionnaire then. The court does intend to and will be distributing a jury questionnaire to start the voir dire process before we begin evidence in the trial. The questionnaire has been now approved in its contents by counsel based on our hearing yesterday. The only remaining alterations will be the completion of the witness list that would be included in the questionnaire, and I will have a final version to be approved by counsel before it's printed off and distributed to potential jurors in Ada County. So knowing that we'll still have that final last look with the witness list completed with that. And is it you, Ms. Blake, today for the state?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Do you have any other questions or concerns on the questionnaire other than what we discussed yesterday and what I mentioned here this morning?
No, Your Honor, the state has no other concerns.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Pryor. On behalf of Mr. Daybell, anything further to add on that questionnaire?
No, Judge, and as I previously noted to the court, my list of witnesses was provided to your staff, I believe, on either Friday or Saturday evening. So I think I've complied with the court's directive regarding this disclosure of witnesses.
All right. Thank you, counsel. The next topic I guess I'll bring up then is it does relate to witnesses at trial. The court's entered an order that the trial will be live streamed on the court's channel. The concern that I have there and would need counsel to instruct carefully any witnesses, there will be an order for exclusion of witnesses, I presume, entered in this case, and that relates to witnesses not observing testimony before they testify. I guess 2 points to bring up there. Number one, if there are victims attending the trial, we had this issue come up and made some decisions on that in the prior case where Lori Vallo's trial went through, and who was permitted to remain in court under the victim statute if they were in fact a witness and who was not. So if counsel could just keep that in mind. And then secondly, with it being live streamed, certainly that gives anyone an opportunity to be observing and watching the trial before they testify. And so the court is going to be requiring a witness to testify under oath that they've not been observing trial proceedings before they testify. Otherwise, if I find they violated the exclusionary order, then they may not be permitted to testify. So, Ms. Blake, then on behalf of the state, if you would just keep that in mind in terms of who's going to be in attending trial that may be a victim and witness, in addition to making sure you instruct any potential witnesses that they're not permitted to observe the proceedings on the live stream or in any other way before their testimony, then we'll try to avoid that situation coming up at trial.
Your Honor, I think we're finalizing any list of people that intend to attend the trial in person. In anticipation of an exclusionary rule, the state has sent out a letter with our subpoenas, which we always send out. We did add a section regarding the exclusionary rule, advising the witnesses that we believed it would be this court's intention to put that into place, that they would be questioned about it, and that they should not be watching or observing any trial unless otherwise permitted by the court, so such as the victims.
All right. Thanks for the representation there, Ms. Blake. Mr. Pryor, any concerns or questions on, and at this point, I guess it is just my intention to have an exclusionary order entered. I'll ask if there is going to be any objection to that. Mr. Pryor, do you agree that would be appropriate to enter in the case?
Judge, I think that is appropriate, and I anticipated the court was going to do that based on the Vallow trial. I included actually in my actual subpoenas, Judge, language that directed every witness that has been subpoenaed not to discuss or review the case, look at the trial. It's included as a part of the subpoena that was issued. So if the court looks at some of the subpoenas I'd issued, you will note that there's a section on every one of my subpoenas that talks about the fact that they are not to observe the trial proceedings under any circumstances. So law enforcement officers, all of those folks have been directed to do that. My only concern, Judge, is that many of my witnesses are going to be witnesses that need to be subpoenaed and aren't necessarily would show up voluntarily. So I'm concerned that they may use that as a mechanism to get out of testifying. But if that's the case, we can discuss that during the trial if I think that has occurred. But, other than that, Judge, I agree with your exclusionary rule, and I think it's fair to invoke that. In terms of, I understand the state's going to have some victims there. Previously, Judge, the court allowed me a couple of seats for the Vallow trial. I would like the same opportunity to have 2 to 3 seats if possible. I have, I believe on my list, 7 expert witnesses, Judge. And my expert witnesses are obviously not covered by the exclusionary rule. They're allowed to view the proceedings as experts. And at various stages of the trial, I'm going to need these experts to have an opportunity to be able to sit there and view some of the proceedings. So I'm not particularly comfortable with live streaming or letting them view that live stream. I don't have a lot of trust in what's going on there. No offense to the IT people, but I'm going to need some seats for those folks to be present during the trial. So.
Okay, well, I'll certainly be able to accommodate some designated seating for approved personnel that might be assisting in the defense of the case. We can discuss that before, once we get started with jury selection process, we'll take a look at the courtroom and designate some particular seats, and that would apply also for the state to have some designated seating for certain individuals that are approved and not subject to the exclusionary rule. Ms. Blake, then just going back on that, does the state have any objection if the court just enters a written exclusionary order prior to commencing trial?
Judge, I think as a general rule, the state does not. I think sometimes a concern comes up that if witnesses are not inclined to testify, they may intentionally review or view some testimony as a mechanism to try to avoid testifying. Only for that reason, I don't know if the court believes that it would be appropriate to do some kind of an admonishment at the outset in addition to the written order, just advising something along those lines. We don't want to run into that situation for the state or the defense witnesses.
I concur, Judge. That's my only concern is that the state's aware of my witnesses and some of those folks may try to do that. And if that's the case, we're going to have an individual hearing. I hate to think that people would do that, but if that happens, the state, that they may have people who may try to do that as well for the defense. So exclusionary rule is fine, Judge, but maybe leave the opportunity to address individual witnesses if we find their behavior may not be entirely pure.
Understood. And it's an interesting concern, but I think it can be resolved on a witness by witness basis if it comes up. The exclusion, of course, is discretionary. If the court finds there's a violation, it's not an automatic sanction or really even governed by any rules. So if I were to determine someone had tried to intentionally avoid testifying, they can still be compelled to testify, brought in under subpoena and required to testify. It would just be a question of whether or not that's influenced their testimony in any way, but certainly does not automatically preclude them being required to testify. And I would likely compel someone to testify if, in fact, I thought they were trying to use that as a shield against being required to testify. So hopefully that doesn't happen, but I would instruct counsel to, of course, advise anyone that you do intend to call if you have an opportunity to talk to them, that that's probably a strategy that would not be effective if they thought it was going to be. All right, so what I'll likely do then is just, so I have it in the file and everyone's aware, we'll get an order issued sometime before trial starts that will provide for the exclusion of witnesses. The other matter I wanted to bring up before we went on to some more nuts and bolts of the trial proceedings, there was a motion that had been filed, not set for hearing or determined. The defense filed a motion on January 30 to extend time for expert disclosures. I did briefly address that yesterday. I understand, Mr. Pryor, that based on the state's response and further proceedings, you're withdrawing that motion and do not intend to get a ruling on that. Is that correct?
That is correct, Judge. At this time, we're withdrawing that motion. It was more of a protective mechanism based on some information that the state disclosed to me, some evidence. They did that within the time addressed by the court and permitted by the court. There was no issue. I was just, I had some concerns. Those have been alleviated in discussions with the state, so we're prepared to go forward.
All right, then the court will not schedule any hearing or make a determination on that January 30th motion, and the court will deem it withdrawn at this time. The final procedural issue I wanted to bring up was the filing of an amended indictment, which the state filed 2 days ago. Mr. Pryor, were you aware that an amended indictment was filed in the case?
Yes, Judge.
All right, on that amended indictment, given the timing, I guess I want to make an inquiry as to whether or not the defense intends to raise any challenge to the amendment on the indictment, and if so, we'd probably need to look at scheduling a hearing on that.
I apologize, Your Honor.
That's fine. So the court would note that amendments of indictments are allowed at this stage of the proceedings. So I guess I'm wondering if you intend any challenge to the amended indictment or whether or not there won't be a challenge. So just for scheduling purposes, if we need to have any hearing on that issue before trial.
And Judge, I think if the court recalls, the state filed a motion to amend the indictment. What they didn't do is, and I was aware of this, I've had a number of discussions with the prosecutor. They just didn't get the amended indictment based on the court's ruling finalized. This is the final draft. I believe it's consistent with what the court ruled. So at this point, I won't be filing any objection to the amended indictment, nor will I be challenging it in any form at this point.
Okay, thank you for that. I just wanted to make sure. So to be clear then, the court will be proceeding through trial with advising the jurors under charges as listed in the amended indictment filed on February 20th of 2024. And the court will note at this hearing that the defense raises no challenge to the amended indictment. And also, as you've stated, Mr. Pryor, there was previously a hearing and a ruling on that. And the court finds also the amended indictment comports with the court's previous ruling. So that will be the governing document as we go forward. With that, then, I guess going towards trial itself, this would be the time if either side has any questions or concerns that we haven't addressed or that are appropriately addressed on the record here in terms of trial length or any of the policies the court will be employing at trial, beginning with the state, Ms. Blake. And I guess one thing I would ask, if you have any estimates on where you think things stand in terms of the trial length, I'd like any input on that. We've scheduled it through the end of May. What are your thoughts on that, Ms. Blake?
Your Honor, I believe that is still an appropriate end time to put for the trial. I think the parties are committed to seeing if we can move things along. Some of it will depend on how long jury selection takes. I think we'll have a better idea. But I still anticipate right now the trial running through the end of May for scheduling purposes.
Okay, thank you. Anything else you'd like to bring up other than advising the court if in fact the state's ready to proceed on those dates?
Just two things briefly, Your Honor, just regarding the amended indictment so that all parties are clear as well. The state had emailed out a copy. In that copy, we'd italicized some things to make it very easy for everyone to follow along what the state was requesting be modified. All we did was took that and unitalicized those and then filed it in once we realized that we'd failed to get it actually filed. So just so the record's clear on that as well, that's where that amended indictment came from. So all parties had a copy previously. Outside of that, the only other thing that I can think of right now for the state is we will have a few additional motions, specifically some motions in limine right now that we would intend to file. We're hoping to have those filed next week. I don't know if the court would want to set a hearing date now or if we want to set a hearing date once they're filed, but just so the court is aware, we will have a few additional motions being filed.
Okay, I'd prefer to probably see the motions and figure out in my calendar where that fits in. And then the other issue, I'm sure for Mr. Pryor's convenience, is whether or not those would be required to be in person or remote hearings if they're going to take place between now and the start of trial. So once those are filed, we'll contact counsel for scheduling hearing if we want to do that before we start trial. All right, from the defense then, Mr. Pryor, your thoughts on the time we've got set aside for this trial and any other issues you think need to be addressed today?
Judge, I think it's an appropriate amount of time. My only concern is that the court's well aware I have a significant number of witnesses. There is going to be some overlap, and I've told the state some of those witnesses I'm just not going to call. It depends on how the case for the state proceeds. But one of my concerns is I have 7 experts. I'm preparing them to come in and paying for them with their plane and hotel and all of that stuff. And these are busy folks, and I've blocked out some time, and I've started that based on discussions with the state around the second week of May is what I'm anticipating, the 15th or so of May. My concern is that if the state's not done yet, that could delay things and cause this thing to go beyond the end of May. The other issue is that if the state's case ends early, I'm going to be scrambling to bring witnesses in to cover the time when the state finishes. So is that a concern of mine? It's a significant concern because these are not cheap experts. And if I have to fly them in a couple of times, and one of the things the state and I discussed is that when they call various witnesses and there's a lot of duplication, that we be given each some leeway in terms of our examination so that we don't have to recall a number of the police officers that are being subpoenaed at the present moment and that are subpoenaed, so that we can maybe move this thing along a little more expeditiously. So I don't know if the state wants to discuss that now, but Judge, there is a lot of duplication. A great number of my witnesses are already witnesses that were called during the Vallow trial, and I anticipate them being called. And one of the concerns is I'm not going to release them from their subpoenas, but I don't know how the court would rule on maybe giving a more expansive direct and cross-examination to allow this to proceed a little more expeditiously.
All right, well, at this point, I wouldn't make any ruling. We just have to see how that plays out in terms of presentation of evidence. But in general terms, I do try to, for efficiency and also just to move things along and not inconvenience witnesses. I don't usually like the practice of putting witnesses on the stand and then having them come back later and being recalled. I think once they're there to testify, if there's a way to get all their testimony out while they're there on the stand, that's my preference. So in terms of latitude of who's doing direct or cross, I think we can work with that as the witness is testifying. And sometimes there is a reason why witnesses come back later, and so it's not a foregone conclusion. But with your concerns there on timing, I guess, Mr. Pryor, you just have to try to make your best estimate of when things are going to be happening based on what you think the state's going to be doing. And it appears the parties are working together, but obviously I'd ask the parties to coordinate as much as possible for timing purposes. And I know the state probably has the same concerns with when people are lined up to testify. And the thing we want to avoid, obviously, is some big delay where there aren't witnesses ready. So to keep the trial moving. All right, well, counsel, Mr. Pryor, do you have any other concerns before we conclude today then?
No other concerns, Judge. I will note that there was some discussion at the status yesterday, Judge, about a stipulation regarding a significant number of exhibits that both sides are going to stipulate to and agree that they can be entered as part of the record. And the state provided me a list of that late last night. I'll get that back to them hopefully tonight or tomorrow, and that'll help in the planning of this, because we do have a significant list of items that we're going to just allow in to state and I have been working very closely in trying to get that taken care of as well.
All right, I'll note that I am going to be, in the short future here, making a trip over to Boise for planning purposes. And one of the things I'll do there is confirm, we had some clerks that were cross-deputized in Ada County at the last trial. I'm not certain who is going to be assisting with clerk duties there this time and whether or not they are still cross-deputized or not. But the point of that would be, if you have exhibits in lieu of bringing them over here and having them transported back to Ada County, if we have a cross-deputized clerk there that can take custody of those exhibits before trial, they could just go directly to the Ada County Courthouse.
And Judge, could I have some time frame as to when you want that done? I would assume probably the latter part of March.
Just probably really any time before trial, or even as we're starting with the jury selection is going to take a while. So even during the jury selection time, I think we could work on getting exhibits in and submitted into the record.
And I'm aware the court has an order that allows us to disclose all of our exhibits and our witnesses by the 10th of March. And I assume that I can do that by email to your clerk and counsel, and they can do the same. Is that correct, Judge?
Yeah, that will be an acceptable way to comply with that part of the scheduling order. All right, Ms. Blake, then anything further from the state this morning?
No, Your Honor.
All right.
Sorry. No, Judge, that's all. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, counsel, that'll conclude the pretrial conference then. The court will keep in contact with you in regards to the jury selection process and timing of that. We'll get a proposed schedule out. And for those motions in limine, if you could get those filed. All right, we're going to go ahead and call it a day then on this pretrial conference. Thanks for your attendance, everyone, and we'll be in recess.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right.
What just happened? They were laughing. Why? The hell was so funny? All I want to know. Do y'all know what happened? They were sure giggling. Every one of them. They had like the big old, I call it the shit eating grin, right? TC said, I think Chad farted. Oh my gosh, right? Okay, so that wasn't it wasn't too triggering, right? I know some of you guys get really triggered, but it seemed to go well for the most part. And the first thing that I thought of, the first people I thought of whenever they mentioned witnesses who use this as kind of a scapegoat or to get out of telling or, going up and testifying, that would be David Pryor. David Warwick came to mind, and Melanie Pulaski. I was like, Melanie Pulaski got away with it. How? I do not know. We'd all like to know that, right? And then it was weird because Melanie Pulaski, it seems like she never went into the courtroom, right? And I don't remember all the stuff. Like, I don't know if she talked to anybody, any of the court officials to rectify that situation or what. They were listening in on a witness testimony, which is a no-no. You don't do that. And if you do, you definitely don't say nothing. I mean, you're not supposed to do that. That's why they put rules in. But why they weren't held accountable, again, in my opinion, is disgusting. That's disgusting to me. But, and see, I didn't hear LDS witnesses, but I'd seen somebody's comment. And so I was like, wait, did I miss something? I forget who said it. Let's see. And so maybe I missed it. I don't know. That's basically what I'm trying to get at. So I had found some of these videos a while back, and because I thought it was interesting to, you kind of hear things in the YouTube streets, right? So let's go to, well, hell, they all look the same. Let's see. That one, that one, that one, that one. Let's try. Okay, here. All right. And it was just a little snippet I had grabbed.
They were going to be talking some about how these were motivated by a belief system, but that's as much as I know.
I can just say, I don't know if this will come as a shock to any of you. Mindy and I have talked about this, but Chad Daybell's attorney, John Pryor, reached out to me and asked if I would consider being a witness for this case, to talk about how Mormon, some of the beliefs and doctrines and theologies are. And that gave me the impression that, at least in Chad's case, there's going to be some discussion about whether the church bears any blame or culpability for some of the beliefs that eventually emerged. That's my speculation, but I declined. Mindy said don't do it, and so I didn't do it. Whatever Mindy tells me, actually Margie, my wife, is like, you will not be testifying in this case. So I politely declined. Mindy, do you have anything you want to add about that?
I'm laughing because when you told me that Pryor contacted you, I'm like, and didn't he say that Chad was a fan of Mormon stories? I was like, really?
Yeah, he did. He did say that, and I wasn't sure about that. The other thing I'll say is I when I told John I couldn't do it, I thought of who else knows law that knows Mormonism really well, and I thought of Radio Free Mormon. And if you guys will forgive my swearing, I asked Radio Free Mormon if he wanted to be a witness on this case, and he said, "Fuck no."
I don't blame him.
Yeah.
So anyway, so that was one of the main things that I went through. I was like, oh yeah, let's try that, right? Because I remember hearing that. And so we already know that John Pryor reached out to John Dehlin of Mormon Stories podcast to ask if he would go and be a witness for the defense on behalf of Chad. And anyways, and then you heard when John Dehlin asked Radio Free Mormon, and Radio Free Mormon was like, F no, right? He does rock. He is a good guy. I like him. Okay. So there was that one. And then there was this one. And this is Ian Pawlowski's testimony. And they talk about why Melanie Boudreaux is not testifying. So let's just kind of go over that. Let me get to it right here.
Observed or listened to any of the testimony in this case. So to simply assume that his wife may have told him about anything she learned or observed or knew is a stretch. And so given
let's go back. I'm sorry. Let's go back. I didn't put in Boudreaux. Hold on. I put in Pawlowski. So give me 1 second. Boudreaux. Oop. Okay. Okay, here we go.
With the state intends to call Ian Pawlowski next. What's the issue you've got with that?
Your Honor, we received information that Melanie Pawlowski, or Melanie Boudreaux, who's married to Ian Pawlowski, that Melanie listened to testimony, that she read articles, all in contradiction to the exclusionary rule, that Melanie and Ian are married and came here to Boise, Idaho together. They have attorneys with them. And so we believe that Ian Pawlowski has violated the rule just because we believe he's talked to his wife. His wife, Melanie, has admitted that she's violated the exclusionary rule. So with both of the witnesses, both Ian Pawlowski and Melanie Pawlowski, would ask that the court conduct an inquiry, and if violated the rule, that they be excluded.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Archibald. Any response to the argument?
Thank you, Your Honor. The state is aware of the information provided to defense. It was actually provided by the state based on information that came into our possession. However, there is absolutely no indication that this particular witness, Ian Pulowski, has reviewed or observed or listened to any of the testimony in this case. So to simply assume that his wife may have told him about anything she learned or observed or knew is a stretch. And so based on what the state has been told by Mr. Pulowski, we do not see that there would be any issue with the exclusionary rule and would ask that he be allowed to testify.
Okay, counsel, what I'll do is take the issue under advisement pending an inquiry after Mr. Pulowski's been placed under oath. I'll have him brought in to be questioned outside the presence of the jury at the end of the break here before the jurors are brought back in. So if we need to go into an in-depth line of questioning with him, we can do that without the jurors overhearing.
So quiet.
Is there an issue with any other witness, Mr. Archibald?
Those are the issues with, given that looking at the clock, doesn't look like we'll get to Melanie Pulowski, but if they call Ian first, then we can do the inquiry with him.
All right. Does the state intend to call Melanie?
Hell yeah.
Your Honor, the state may intend to call her, but we would ask to take that up separate, given the separate issues involved and before her testimony.
Separate issue.
Okay, so right now then we'll just deal with the Ian Pulowski issue. We'll take that up at the end of the break. I gave, I think, about 30 minutes. So why don't we come back in at about 20 till, if you can have Mr. Pulowski here ready to be sworn, and we'll start that inquiry before the jurors are brought back in.
Okay, so let's
So
scoop,
start that
scoop,
up here in a
scooch.
little over 20 minutes.
Oh.
So we'll be in recess until then.
Nope.
All rise.
Okay.
Formerly known as Melanie Bedreau.
Yes.
And how long have you two been married?
Just about 4 years, 3.5 years now.
Too long?
Were you in the same meeting where your wife met with FBI agent Doug Hart and prosecutor Lindsay Blake?
No, we were separate during those times.
And you came from, where do you live now?
Arizona, Mesa.
And you came here with Melanie how long ago?
We arrived on Monday.
And Mr. Pulowski, if you could just forward
Yes,
to the
I'm sorry.
microphone, please.
We arrived Monday.
Please.
So this is your third day in Idaho?
Yes.
And have you and Melanie talked about this case?
Yes.
And Melanie made a statement to the prosecutor and the officer, the nail is already in Lori's coffin.
Objection, Your Honor. This
Wow.
is hearsay for this witness. He already indicated he was not in the room or present for any conversation.
So my question is, did you hear her say that?
No.
Is that what she said to you?
No.
Has she ever said anything like that to you?
No.
Have you said anything like that to her?
No.
Now, you brought an attorney with you, right?
Yes.
And why is that?
This is just a complicated matter, and I just feel better navigating it with an attorney present.
Are you aware that your attorney was also here with another witness?
Yes.
And did you talk to your attorney about what the other witness said?
No.
You understand that an attorney is legally and ethically obligated to tell his client everything.
Your Honor, I'm going to object here. I think that's a mischaracterization, and I think this is going well beyond the exclusionary issue that we're supposed to be dealing with.
On the first grounds there, I'll sustain that.
So you're claiming that your attorney, who was also here with another witness, did not tell you anything about what the other witness said?
Objection asked and answered.
It hasn't been answered, but go ahead.
Right.
Sorry, could you restate that?
You're claiming that your attorney has not told you one thing about Zulema Pastina's testimony here.
Correct.
Did you ask?
No.
He didn't tell you.
Wouldn't they? The attorney would be able to direct him. You worked with FBI
to record people who did not know they were being recorded, right?
Objection, Your Honor. This is getting way beyond the exclusionary.
Was he gonna call him a
That's
snitch?
sustained. The only issue at this point, Mr. Archibald, narrowed in the scope of whether or not he has been exposed to any of the trial testimony for the exclusionary order.
So, Mr. Pulaski, you're claiming that you don't know anything about this case because you haven't listened to anything since it started 5 weeks ago.
Correct.
Did you talk to Agent Doug Hart?
Yes.
Did you talk to Prosecutor Lindsay Blake?
Yes.
Did they tell you what had happened in court?
No.
Did you ask?
No.
What did you and Doug Hart and Lindsay Blake talk about?
We discussed just the testimony that I'm going to be giving.
Okay. And so you rehearsed your testimony with them?
Correct.
I don't have anything else.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Archibald.
I want to get to let me write snitch and see. I just want to hear that part. Did they say it? No? Where's that part at? It's not in this one. Anyways, so there's one. The other one, let me turn this one off, is Mr. David Warwick. I was there. Oh, I was coming out of my chair. With that one there. I already had this one queued up. David. Let's see. Whoop. Okay. I'm sorry. It points them out anywhere there's David on the page or in the transcript. So, okay. Okay, here we go. David Warwick.
I'll have you inquire, and then I'll allow cross from the defense, but only limited in scope as to whether or not the exclusionary rule is at issue in this case.
April 20th.
Ms. Smith, with that in mind, you may ask your witness questions.
Thank you. Good morning.
Morning.
Okay. And are you having any trouble hearing me?
No.
Okay. If at any time you have trouble hearing any of us, just let us know, okay?
Yes.
Please state your name and spell your last name for the court reporter.
David Dale Warwick, Warwick.
Okay. And Mr. Warwick, are you married?
Yes.
And who are you married to?
Satan.
Melanie Gibb.
Okay. How long have you guys been married?
About 2.25 years.
Okay. Do you remember when you got married?
December 12th. Sorry, 2021.
Okay. And have you testified in this proceeding before?
Yes.
Okay. And when I say this proceeding, in this case involving Ms. Vallow before?
No, it's Chad.
I don't think on this one, no.
Okay. On a previous case involving Ms. Vallow?
I thought those were with Chad.
Okay.
I don't remember seeing Chad, so I did this twice, and I saw Chad.
Okay. And then did you testify at a grand jury as well?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you were given information from the prosecution staff about that the court has said you cannot view you cannot listen to trial testimony, right?
Right.
And you were given instructions that you can't discuss people's trial testimony with them, correct?
Right.
All right. Did there come a situation where you listened to someone's trial testimony?
Yes.
Can you tell us about that, please?
Yes. I came down with an illness about 2 weeks ago.
Bullshit.
And Melanie didn't want to be alone up here. But she came to court, and I couldn't make it that day, so I was going to drive a couple of days later. But
I just want to point out the basic understanding of how germs work. And if you go and listen to Melanie Gibbs' testimony, she sounds like she's sucking on a cough drop. She sounds sick. And he sounds like he's using the same excuse, like he got sick from her. And so that can really usually only happen. I'm just saying it's interesting because he's like, no. And then, but he's sick too, is what I'm basically saying. Germs.
she ended up coming sooner. Anyway, so we stopped talking. She got here for 1 and 2. She was a little upset with me for not coming. And so I listened to 45 minutes of hers, but I was doing it to see how she was doing. And then 45 minutes into it, I remembered and I shut it off.
Okay.
So I was just concerned for her and just seeing how she was doing. And I didn't have my presence of mind because I was playing Aquaman. Frankly, I was breathing water, and it's
stupid.
Just lost my presence of mind.
Okay, because you've been sick and you're on medication.
I just got on antibiotics 2 days ago just so that I can come because I was not getting better.
Okay. So you understand that you were instructed not to do that, right?
Yes, and that's why I shut it off. I remembered, I listened to the first 45 minutes, and then I remembered, and I just shut it off.
Okay. Now, had you previously talked about this situation with your wife?
No, we haven't talked anything about the case. She lives in Arizona.
Wow.
I live in Utah.
Okay.
It's just interesting too because, y'all, whenever he said that he listened to the first 45 minutes, I mean, I was right there in the courtroom, and I was like, I went straight to East Idaho News and went to Melanie Gibbs' testimony just to kind of see what she was saying. I had my earbuds in, and I was just trying to see what all she was saying in those first 45 minutes. It would be interesting just to know, but I was like trying to do all this, in real time. And I mean, because he's just gross. He's not a good witness, and I think he does it on purpose because I'll show you in a minute.
We'll do some relationship right now due to family needs. And so she I knew she needed some time, so I just left her alone.
Okay.
And
is anything you listened to, did it affect what you're going to say in this trial at all?
No.
Okay. Did anything you heard from her testimony, anything the way she was treated, anything about that going to affect your ability to be truthful and candid in questioning?
No.
Anyway, it's going to affect what you have to say to this jury.
Not at all.
Anyways.
At this point, the state has nothing further, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, Ms. Smith, for the inquiry. Either Mr. Thomas or Mr. Archibald, would you like to question the witness in regards to the issue of, again, narrow it to the scope of just the exclusionary rule, please?
Yeah. So after your wife's testimony, what did you two talk about?
We didn't talk about that at all. We didn't talk at all.
You haven't talked to your wife since last week?
Nope.
And that's normal for you two?
Nope.
So where is she right now?
She's at home working in Chandler, Arizona.
And how would you know that if you haven't talked to her?
It's because that's where she lives, and I know she works. She took a week off to come, and she needed to go back. She couldn't take any more time.
So how do you know that she's not still here in Boise if you haven't talked to her?
Well, I got a text from her saying that she was done and she was going home.
Talking. But
we didn't talk. We didn't talk anything about the case. She just told me that she's going home.
And so what did you learn from her testimony in the 45 minutes that you listened to it? Nothing.
I'll be honest with you, I was so sick. I was listening to her tones and how she was feeling.
Oh my God.
And
you just talked to her.
There's nothing that stuck out to me at all.
Why would you just wait?
I really wasn't listening for anything. And
I'm sure she told him how it went.
And so you were listening for her tone of voice rather than what she actually said?
Yes.
And so how was her tone of voice?
She seemed somber.
Horrible.
And so that's what did you listen to the direct questions or the cross-examined questions?
No, nothing on cross-examination. It was all the first 45 minutes.
He's swallowing hard.
Whatever the first 45 minutes was about.
And where would you have accessed that information?
YouTube.
So what other articles did you pull up on YouTube?
There were just a couple relating to Melanie. And then when the one had the one had the court, and so that's where I listened to the 45 minutes, and then that's when I recalled and shut it off.
Mhm.
And who posted that on YouTube?
Trying to remember which one it was.
Or is where you hidden your crime. Right.
It was either Hidden Crime or something like that, or East Idaho News. I don't remember. I remember seeing headings.
Okay.
But they're right next to each other, and I'm not sure which one I.
So what was the heading that you clicked on?
Come on, Papa.
Melanie Pibb testifies in court, something like that.
Melanie Pibb.
And did you have to fast forward through other information to get to Melanie's testimony?
No, it was just hers.
That's right.
And did you read the comments about the article?
No.
Do you get the, was this on your laptop or your cell phone?
Cell phone.
We're still going April
And
1st.
did you download it?
No.
You just played it on YouTube?
Yes.
And did you do that with, have you done that in the past with other
You don't know how.
articles about this case?
In the past, yeah, when I have in the past.
Get it?
Back, that was like a couple of years ago when we were dealing with stuff then.
Since you received your subpoena in this case, how many articles have you clicked on?
How many articles?
Yeah.
There was 2 on Melanie, and
Hey, DJ.
then there was 1 on
Hey, Chris.
Zulema and Alex back when they got married.
And those would have been articles posted by who? Do you remember?
Let me go schedule
I
that real
don't
quick while
remember.
we finish listening.
I was just laying in bed or
Chances
sitting
are.
in a rocker. Actually, I couldn't lay down, and
So descriptive.
So
descriptive.
I was just kind of
He keeps burping. Just a thing.
trying to come up with the right word.
All right, lie. Come on.
Is that where you get most
I was just kind of surfing, just kind of doing my time until I got up, and then when I got 45 minutes into Melanie's testimony, then my presence of mind said, "Hey, you're not supposed to be doing this," and I shut it off. And I didn't pick it up again after that.
And the other articles that you accessed, was that also on YouTube or some other format?
Objection, vague. If we could get a time frame of when he's saying he accessed those other articles.
I agree. If we can know when this occurred, Mr. Archibald, that'll be helpful.
The question was, since you received your subpoena, you told me you had received some other, access some other articles, right? Did you remember?
Yeah, they were all that same time frame, that same day.
Oh, the same day that you listened to Melanie's?
Yes, I was just.
You accessed other articles?
I was checking on my wife, just trying to find things on her.
You just ask her.
And then when I saw
Are
the
you
court, I listened to that one. And then while she was testifying, that's when the consciousness set in and said, "You're not supposed to be doing this." And I remember the
You don't
order.
have one, in my opinion.
And so since you received your subpoena, have you accessed other articles about this case?
No.
Why are you swallowing hard?
Excuse me.
Oh, come on. I'm trying to upload a damn thumbnail so I can get that.
I have just a couple of quick questions because I want to make sure I understand. Once you got can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So once you got your subpoena and once the trial started, what have you looked at or listened to about the trial?
Melanie, and then that one about Zulema and Alex when they got together.
Okay. So when you say an article about Zulema and Alex, was it about Zulema's testimony at trial?
No.
Okay. And when you say when Zulema and Alex, was an article referencing their marriage in the past?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Did that article have anything to do with testimony in this courtroom?
No.
Okay. Did it have anything to do with the proceedings before Judge Boyce against Lori Vallow?
No.
Okay. So in terms of what you've listened to about what has gone on from the witness stand in this case, what have you listened to about the trial testimony in this case?
Trial testimony?
Yes, sir.
Melanie. 45 minutes of Melanie, that's it.
Okay. Did you read any articles about trial testimony?
No.
Okay. So I was just a little confused on cross-examination.
Okay.
Did anything that you've listened to with regard to trial testimony affect or have any impact on your testimony before this court?
No.
Okay. Is there anything that you've read about the proceedings before the judge that is going to affect your testimony in the courtroom?
No.
Okay.
Lies.
And when you say back when you said to Mr. Archibald that you had looked at some stuff back when we were going through all this, you and now your wife have been witnesses on this case since the case started in 2020 and 2021, right?
Yes.
Some of your first interviews were in 2020, right?
Yes.
Okay. In fact, you've given several interviews to law enforcement.
Yes.
Okay. And those interviews have been done both recording and with police reports, right?
Yes.
Okay. And you've also testified in court in public at a preliminary hearing.
Yes.
And you've testified under oath before a grand jury.
Yes.
Okay. Did anything you heard about the first 45 minutes of your wife's testimony in any way change what you've testified to 2 or 3 times?
No.
Did anything that you heard from your wife's testimony for that first 45 minutes change anything you've told the police?
No.
All right. The state has nothing further.
To me, it
right.
says more.
Ms. Smith.
To me, it says more about these witnesses than it does. You know, I understand that the prosecution and defense are all having to really vet this guy out or their witness out because of their reluctance to follow the rules, so to speak. That's what I get. It's no shade on them. It's shade on these characters, in my opinion. A rule is a rule. It doesn't mean you get to do it for your own reasons. It doesn't mean that just this one time or that you're exalted or special, that those rules don't apply to you. That's what I get. And it's just so gross, right? It just is. It just is. So it reminded me of him saying how he saw JJ and he was in camo shorts and not red pajamas. It was so, what? He's so detail oriented when it goes to him explaining, because he's a contractor. He's a general contractor. And so he builds homes and he knows that whole scene. And I just find it interesting because he looks for evidence, so to speak, to what Lori allegedly tells him JJ does when he turns into a quote unquote zombie. And so it's so interesting how they flake out on what would be a really horrific and traumatizing event had they had, in my opinion, innocence. If they were just, Lori kills her kid, Lori and Chad allegedly kill and murder their children and spouses and stuff. But in this case, in this instance, it's a child in the same damn apartment as you. That would be traumatizing. And usually you remember the details around that. I mean, that's the thing about it, right? And so I just find it so interesting how they just skate around it. And it's Milne. I can't recall. Gibb is straight up. We need some shirts made with that on there. Melanie Gibb. Melanie, I can't recall Gibb because she can't recall a damn thing. Me and Jason always sing that song. I can't recall. Right. anyways, because that's what she does. And so he kind of does the same thing. So right here.
Listen to portions of his wife's testimony in assessing his credibility. The court can also allow the defense counsel to do take a statement from him. We could take a break and they could do a specific statement on any other things. There's countless other remedies short of the very extreme remedy of striking that witness. And I would ask the court to use its discretion and see Mr. Warwick for what it was. It was an inadvertent way of trying to support his wife. And when he realized he was doing it the wrong way, he stopped.
I like this.
All right, thank you, Ms.
I like
Smith.
the Jim
Does
Archibald
the
says
defense
this.
wish to make any rebuttal argument before I make a ruling?
Well, Your Honor, there's a reason that we have rules, and we don't just say, golly gee, made a mistake, my bad, no harm, no foul. That's not the language of Idaho Rule of Evidence 615. The reason that we have this rule is exactly for this predicament. He's accessing information on the internet, on YouTube. He knows he's not supposed to. His motivation for it is really irrelevant. He purposefully accessed it, and he purposefully listened to it.
Oh, thank you.
And he not only did that, but accessed another article regarding other people who have testified in this case. So I can understand the state saying no harm, no foul, but there's a rule, and there's a reason we have a rule, and it's to protect the integrity of the court. So I ask that he be excluded.
All right, thank you, Mr. Archibald. While the court's reviewed this situation, I've carefully considered the testimony that's been provided through the questioning of the witness.
It can be extreme.
The court would note that I sua sponte issued an order for exclusion of witnesses in this case before trial started. The citation of the state in the State versus Danson case, 113 Idaho 746, does set out the analysis of the rule. Talks about, first of all, it is correct that it is within the trial court's discretion to determine the nature of any sanction that may be imposed. That also cites the State versus Christensen case, 100 Idaho 631. In the Danson case, they talk about 4 potential sanctions that could be considered.
Oh, let's listen.
And number 1 would be citing the witness for contempt. So Mr. Warwick could be held in contempt of court for willfully disobeying a court order. Number 2 is permitting comment on the witness's non-compliance in order to reflect on his credibility.
I agree.
Number 3 is what the defense has requested, refusing to let the witness testify. Number 4 would not really apply here, which would be striking the witness testimony. We don't get to number 4 because the state voluntarily disclosed this to the court before the witness was called.
Okay.
The witness voluntarily disclosed the conduct to the state before the witness was called as well. So I have to look, I think, at the level of conduct. And
don't let them find a loophole like I just did.
To interfere in the fair administration of the trial and the credibility of the witnesses who testify before this jury.
Did y'all get that too? Let me back it up.
In looking at the
he says right here, Judge Boyce says, let's see, which would be striking the witness testimony. We don't get to number 4. Here's kind of where I saw it. Because the state voluntarily disclosed this to the court before the witness was called, the witness voluntarily disclosed the conduct of the state before the witness was called. So is it because they both voluntarily disclosed? Or what if what if a witness was to just be like, and swear in under oath and everything. And then in the middle of testimony, be like, well, when I was listening to another witness, I heard her say blah, blah, blah. But then that's hearsay. But still, I'm just saying, like, if a witness were to bring that up during trial testimony after saying that they didn't watch anything, I don't know. I probably just screwed that up a great deal, but that's kind of what I saw out of it. I don't know if that's what y'all see. So Because God knows they exploit every loophole there is. Anything to bend the rules just a little. So, but that's, it brought this up for me whenever during the hearing today, Chad Daybell's pretrial hearing, that he's scheduled to go to trial April 1st, April Fool's Day, in Boise, Idaho, at the Ada County state courthouse. Okay. So many words, right? Liza. He told prosecution and they told the judge and defense. Right. But, oh, yeah, I'm glad Boyce addressed it the way he did, crush it. Yeah, he was. He seemed very like, we experienced this, in Vallow's trial. So we're not trying to have these same hangups, right? That's what I got from that too. Murdering Fool's Day. He told on himself before getting caught. Yeah. Yeah. I have faith too. It's hard. So I don't have faith in these people. I have faith in this broken system. Unfortunately, it's broken, but and then it's just like you come to a point where I want to be a part of making changes. I want to be a part of implementing, new laws in the names of the victims. But then, it's like, how do you work on the behavior of people, of society? Like, how do you work on that? Except for being critical and pointing out things where you kind of poke, not, I don't know how to say it really, but poke holes in the things that they say. And anyways, so it's tough. But again, you can have all the rules in the world. You can have all the laws in the world. You can have all these things in place that sound good on paper. They mean well, you know what I mean? Their intentions are good, but then you have all these people who think that they're exalted. And that's a problem, in my opinion. But it said, so did someone compile Mel G's police? Wait, let's see. Sniffling? Which one? The one in Arizona? I will. I'll do it. I'm your Huckleberry girl. I like doing that. I like going through, I've gone through some of Zalima Pastinez's testimony and took out all the ums. Okay, so I don't get distracted. It's so distracting. And then Rachel Smith was the one who was, what do you call it? Examining or whatever. I don't know. There's cross redirect. I don't understand. And anyway, she was questioning the witness. There you go. And she started to mirror. So they all started saying, and I'm just like, oh, it's a conundrum. So, thank you, T Lemon. You're so sweet. Oh, so it is dark. It is dark. Thank you for allowing me to participate. Oh, you're more than welcome. We love having you, Liza Joe, everybody. I love having you guys. You guys are the best. Really. I'm not just saying that. And Squeaky Will says, I think it's just human nature to delve into a criminal trial and what surrounds it, especially if you're going to be a part of it. Same applies to jurors, right? Right. Look at Alex Murdaugh, or Alec Murdaugh, however you want to say it. It's just people have different ideas of what's right and what's wrong. And it's just, some adhere to different systems even. It's all the systems, right? It's the systems. Oh, thank you. You're so sweet. Y'all are so sweet. She didn't look, well, she acts high. She acts like she is high. Her hair wasn't braided. I just realized her hair wasn't braided, so I guess Jody was busy. Just kidding. Oh, thank you, Catherine, Willie. That's so sweet. It's like I'm not here for the accolades, though. I'm just here because I'm just like, but I understand. I get it. But that is so sweet, and it means a lot. Education is key, Crush's superpower to learn. Then you are I, or the crime family here, pass on that power to someone else. My kids hopefully won't entertain narcissists and murders and so on. Yeah, that's right. That's good. That's a good way to look at it. And I circle around in this stuff so much. It's just like you can kind of get lost in the abyss. And it's good to just kind of have these conversations and, readjust yourselves, I guess. Lamisa says, I'm willing to bet Lori refuses all medicine that was pure through the veil portal. Jesus vibes. hmm Alec Murdahl called all his lawyer friends and family to come trample on the crime scene. It's so obvious. It's so obvious. And it seemed to be not just that one time. It just seems like that's the pattern. And I think and that's well said too, Mohawk Mom. That's a good observation because it seems, look, I've always stayed away from, again, I wasn't into true crime, so to speak. I'd watch some Datelines. I'd watch the first 48 hours, nothing hardcore. And I'd say this, you know what I mean? Like all the YouTube videos, true crime genre, all that stuff, Netflix, all these things, right? And we're just trying to understand. It is normal human reaction to just kind of be like, kind of see how other people look at things and in the same and while you're viewing it and observing all these things, you're also learning about how you question things, how you view things. And there's sometimes I'm just like, well, I agree with that, and I'm just like, oh, it's interesting. So we learn about ourselves. And I think that's what draws us to it, is just because we're not seeking out to find anything in ourselves, but on the way, and because of it, we are learning about ourselves through what comes out. Yesterday, it was the 1-year anniversary for my cousin Justin, who was murdered allegedly by his wife, Justin Carrier. It's so sad. So sad. So I hope that Vicky and his siblings are doing okay. That was hard. When I turned on Facebook yesterday or went on Facebook yesterday, I was like, oh. And I freeze. I do my freeze, right? And so I made myself write something and I was like, I don't know what to say. This just sucks. And I'm here and I'm trying, and you know what I mean? So it's the effort and just trying to get comfortable with uncomfortable things because it is uncomfortable. They're not right, but you know, my Uncle Charles was murdered allegedly by Lori and her brother Alex, and more if you ask me. But then there's Justin, my cousin, who was allegedly murdered by his wife, and it's just like there's two guys, two men. It's sad. It's really sad. Oh, but what I was going with Mohawk Mom, I think it was. Yeah, I did see it yesterday. I did see Dr. G's. But with what Mohawk Mom said about how they go and trample, and so anyways, I kind of looked more into John Benet Ramsey. That case is so trampled on. I don't think justice exists for that baby girl. It did. It had potential to, but it's just been so trampled on. And everybody should feel ashamed of themselves, in my opinion, just because of how it looks and who it might implicate. And it's sad because it's just never any justice. There's no such thing, I don't think. Yeah, entitled. There you go, Carolina. Excluded from following the rule. I agree. Prussia needing new laws passed. Charles sounded the alarm, and authorities wouldn't listen. Right. Oh, I mean, again, we've kind of seen these things go into effect already with Lori Vallow being referenced in case law or whatever in the Arizona courts whenever Spring Thibodeau and her brother, took Blaze Thibodeau. It's anyways, you know what I mean? Like, it's just so it is working it slow, just like everything else. So, oh my God, Lisa. Right? 39 days. Oh my God. Okay. I'm having that realization moment again. I've got to look at my airline or whatever, the airline, whatever, where you go to schedule and get tickets to fly, right? I can't think of the words right now, but I got to see if there's any points that I can apply. I want to be there for opening. I don't want to be there the whole time. My daughter graduates. Y'all, I'm so proud of her. Oh, I got to share this with y'all. So Ashlyn, my daughter, she's 18. She was super, super, super close with JJ, Tylee, Charles, Lori. Okay. She went and she would go spend weeks up there. And one of the last texts I have from my uncle Charles was asking if she could go for the summer and go to what's it called? Not Six Flags, not that, but not Waterworld. Where they have the dolphins and stuff. Oh God. Oh my God, it's escaped my mind. Anyways, and he was like, she's just so good with JJ. And she was, and that's her only cousin. Her dad does not have any siblings, so that was it. But my daughter told me yesterday that and we're going to sign her up. We were supposed to go today, but she's got to take her ACT, the English part today. So we'll probably go next Thursday and signing up to university here. And she's going into this. I was like, oh my God. Okay. She's going into criminology and FBI. That's where she wants to go. And I'm just like, oh my God. I'm very proud of her. I mean, this just kind of took me back a little bit because I'm just looking at it and I'm just like, God, it's everything. There's corruption everywhere, everywhere. And so I'm like, she's not corrupt. So I know that. And hopefully she can add, and spread her values and her positive attitude on everything. And it really has impacted her. SeaWorld. Thank you. SeaWorld. Couldn't get it. But I'm just proud of her. I mean, of course, I'm a mom. I worry. I mean, I'm going to worry, but it's not in anything that my daughter does. I worry about all the other people, of course. And it's this whole experience she's a very observant young lady, and she's very smart and compassionate. And I think this has obviously gone into making what she wants to do. Not to mention, y'all, I learned that she had taken a picture with damn Gypsy Rose Blanchard. I was like, oh my God. Okay. And at the Prairie Lake Mall. She lives in the same damn town as us. What are the odds? I don't want to know. Yeah, I think so too, Maria. I totally think so. I do. That and, there's the FBI agents who you can talk to. Ashlyn's not a witness. So, she's got connections where she can talk to these people if she wants to. I'm sure it can happen and just kind of see the best way to go. So I'm proud. I'm a proud mama. Ashlyn for the win. Yeah. Jet said, Jay, good to see you. Oh, yeah. Amen. Amen, brother. Right? Amen. Yeah, she is. I think so, but I'm biased, partial. Um, I don't know. Oh, 10 years from I'm like, "What?" 10 years from now. Yeah. And it is the okay, so this year, though, it's gonna be in Tennessee, right? I could go stay at KJ's house if it's close enough. I thought about that. I mean, not again, it's just to kinda it's a hub where a lot of people who do follow these cases go. It would be nice to go, not for not again, it's like it's surreal because it's not for public exposure or notoriety. It's to connect and just say thank you, share stories. It's just a hub. I just really think, it's interesting. CrimeCon sold out. Well, there we go. When is it normally? You said the end of May is your birthday. Mine's early May, so JJ's was May 25th. Little Gemini. I do too, Bewitched. I do too. So I scheduled that live stream, just kind of the review crew is what I named it. And we can go over the preliminary trial testimony. I had already done some a couple weeks ago, but we can pick up where we left off, and that is with Melanie Gibb. We can pick right up with Melanie Gibb, right? She can't recall. And we'll just kind of go in with that. And then again, there's some people who, whenever I brought that up about in Mark Means filings, how there was, he was just yammering off, just spouting off some things, right? And so I don't know what his intentions were. I don't know if this really happened. I don't know of his knowledge of it. I have no idea. Just here, just like you. Oh, that's sweet. I'm always late too. That's so sweet and appreciated for both of those babies. Yes. Thank you. No, man. There, Justin Lum had asked me, this is before I met him, but like this is years ago. He was like, what can I get your parents for Christmas? And I was like, name some stars. They have everything, name some stars after the kids. So he did. And anyways, I thought that was really sweet. Right? I came up with something the other day. What was it? I don't know. I don't remember. And I'm just like, does that even make sense? Oh, yes. Yes. Oh my God. Good. Hopefully he will tell where the baby's remains are. These babies, man, just totally failed by the system. I think so too. I think that's a lot of interest in this too. There are those who they don't like people like me who are, and I don't flat out just accuse the church. It's not the church's fault. They don't help. Okay. If that system wasn't in place, you know, deflecting and kind of twisting the way, in my opinion, people act, people think, it makes up a lot of this bad thought. And anyways, a lot of the things that we've seen and a whole lot of this, the projection, the persecution complex, because they think the saints are being persecuted. Okay, that doesn't mean everybody. Okay, just because you have saints in your name because it's incorporated and it's legal doesn't mean that that is what you are. Okay, in my opinion. So, as you're not special, nobody's special, and we're all getting out. We're not getting out of this alive. Okay, and you can't take all your friends with you. You know what I mean. You can't take anybody with you when you die. You go and you die alone. So, anyways, but a lot of people, I get blamed. I'm sure. I mean, we can tell that my questions and my take on things is I mean, I'm not anti-Mormon. I'm not anti anything. I'm anti-bullshit. I'm anti-corruption. A lot of things I've learned. Yeah, that's so awesome. But it's a lot of this, like it's like you can never criticize the church. They don't like it. Nobody likes when people criticize the church, and so they take it as anti, and I'm like, "What?" It's weird. Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, "Okay, well, we'll wait right here, come on, come all, whenever you're ready, because it's gotta be in their time." Um, I witnessed, right? That happened. My Uncle Charles tried to do an intervention on Lori. Well, I mean, her in her testimony, she says that it's either give me my temple recommend, or I'm going to murder. Okay. Whoa. All right. How valuable is this temple recommend? Okay. And then he tried to get it suspended or taken away from her. And I'll be damned. No. And then, that was talk between Summer and Lori, like, he's trying to take away your sin, just, it's bullshit. And it's just a temple recommend. Okay. As if you're quote unquote worthy enough according to your superiors. What? Okay. I don't want to be in that club. I don't want to be in any club. So I just, anyways, for all of you who have gotten out of the system and all its toxicity, I just high five you. Y'all need to go look in the mirror and pat yourself on the back. Okay. So, okay. Well, I'm going to end here, and I'm going to go watch some of that Adam Montgomery being found guilty of murdering his daughter, Harmony. Okay. Y'all say some prayers. Yes, me too. Same here. It's this, yeah. Exaltation thing. Yeah. Superiority. Special. Above criticism. Right. And I think anybody, that goes across the board. Okay. Anybody above criticism, it ain't gonna be good. Anyways, I'll see you guys later at 7 p.m. tonight, Central. So 8 Eastern, 6 Mountain, 5 Pacific. But anyways, thank y'all for being here. And thank you, Donna. Thank you, mods. Appreciate you. Thank you, Nancy, also for your donation. It helps. It really does. All right. See y'all later. Love always wins. Justice for Tylee, Charles, Tammy, JJ, and Joe. Bye.